How's it going, guys and gals? This is Advanced Warrior here, and welcome back to another Advanced Wars by Web replay commentary. This time I have a very special replay commentary for you guys, actually, with none other than a friend of mine who's collabed with a few of my other friends, but feel free to introduce yourself. Kantbei.
Hey everyone, it's Kantbei here. I'm a high-level fog player, primarily known for pioneering really dumb openings and making them work.
Yes. Welcome Kantbei. His first appearance on this channel. I've gotten to know Kantbei a little bit through Master Kantbei, who you've seen me collab with a lot, and watching those collabs with him, I definitely learned a lot from Kantbei, even though he hasn't spoken to me directly. Had a few collabs with him, with four of us, with Go7 being the fourth, and I finally had the opportunity to have a match with Kantbei myself, in hopes that I'd learn something new and add to my, I guess, subpar skill level to Advanced Wars. But yeah, I'm definitely expecting to learn a lot from you. Now, unfortunately, for some reason, Parsec isn't working. He keeps getting a black screen whenever we're sharing. If you guys know the issue to that, it'd be really nice to know that. But for now, I'm just gonna have full control, and whenever he has any input, that's where I'll stop and try to highlight what he's talking about. Alright, so you ready for this?
Alright, let's go.
Alright, so the map here is called Crossfire Schwarzwald. Do you remember the name?
Yeah, Crossfire Schwarzwald.
Yeah, Crossfire Schwarzwald. 3 base, 1 airport map. 2 comm towers, actually, with the second comm tower, like, being back in this corner. Definitely wants to drop an infantry, or maybe a transport copter, which usually I don't. HQs are really close to each other, with the black boats, obviously, to prevent Sami cheese. And I noticed that the contested properties seem to be like these 8 that kind of are diagonal in the middle here. And there's also a lot of terrain for some bases, so it might be a little tricky to reinforce. It looks like a big map, but this terrain still gives some trouble for some units. We have a black boat here that can actually go out to either side. What do you think of this map, Kantbei?
Yeah, I think you've covered like a lot of the salient features here. Like the 8 contested cities, those are really like the main ones you'll push for. If like you play super aggressive, you can potentially like take the city like surrounded by forests to the top or bottom, like the 3 city chain in the corners.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about here.
Yeah, that's far like as far forward as you can take in a reasonable game. The map is like deceptively big, but a lot of the terrain is actually like superfluous, right? So like the corners are just like, you know, islands which have no relevance, and then there's sea tiles all around it, right?
Oh, yeah.
And that's purely just for like the second comm tower. Like the actual playing area is not that big, but what makes it feel big is because of like the reinforcement routes are so hard, like you said, like there's so many forests to block stuff. That's why it feels like it takes so long for a tank to reinforce the front, which gives it the illusion of being bigger than it actually is.
Alright. So a couple times I mentioned strong side and weak side in my videos. What would you say... Okay, so let's look at your side, the top left. What would you say is more optimal for a player's strong side, or can it function either way?
This map, yeah, it can function either way. It's not super clear. But I would say like there might be slight advantage in like the top right for me rather than the bottom left, because 2 of the bases and the airport flow naturally towards it. Yes. Whereas going bottom, like you have to do like weird detour routes. But honestly, it shouldn't matter that much, right? Like if you're playing a death ball style, you can play for either corner successfully.
Yeah, I think I counted how long it would take for a tank to get to the 3 cities, and I believe it's the same time, but with this the neutral base here, it is a little bit faster for the bases to go through the plains rather than up the roads. So usually going through the plains is what I end up having as my strong side.
Yeah. The other thing though that potentially offsets this is like the base near the airport has a lot of like road show one movement terrain tiles going to the front, right?
Oh yes.
Which makes things like fast recon, rocket, missile, although like you wouldn't build missile here, right? But these things, like all of these units, have more viability on that side than on the other side, which probably like, doesn't affect the dynamic all that much, but it's like an interesting like mid to late game idea if you ever like get that far.
Oh yeah. But, yeah, a lot of as we said, a lot of terrain, making it difficult to reinforce. But that's the way the map goes. And as Kantbei said, it can work either way. Would you make your strong side or weak side? So I decided to have a game with Kantbei with the tier 4 COs. I think we said that with tier 2 it would be like Olaf mirror and it would just get a little slow or something like that.
Yeah, tier 2 will just be like pure Olaf mirror, and then it's just like a tactics fight, which is fine if like you like those kind of things, but some people don't like it, so I opted for like a more interesting tiering, so tier 3 and tier 4 are probably the best for this one. Tier 1, tier 1 is actually also potentially interesting, because like Hawk is strong, but so is one bolt and stone.
Oh, yeah.
So like, yeah, there's some interesting plays in tier 1, and obviously like, Javier would be banned because of 2 towers.
Oh yeah, 30% attack with Hawk. but yeah, so we decided to go for a tier 4 game, and my CO is Jake. Jake has his passive is that all of his units gain plus 10% attack power on planes. And obviously, you look at the center, you're just seeing like a lot of planes, a lot of opportunity for me to attack. But this is just me personally. I like a 20% attack boost because it could like guarantee kills on properties with certain units. So with 2 comm towers, that already can happen. But it is a nice little additional attack power for Jake. His power beatdown gives all of his units a plus 20% attack bonus on planes, and his indirects plus 1 range. Only his land indirects, so not his naval units. And his super is block rock, which gives increases his planes bonus up to plus 40%. Indirects plus 1 indirect range, and plus 2 movement for all of his land vehicles. How do you feel about Jake on this map, Kantbei?
Yeah, Jake's a fairly solid pick. In tier 4, like, Jake is almost always going to be like the no-brainer pick if you're not really sure about the map. Almost every fog map, I think like Jake should be the pick. There are some cases where like, you know, you can go Cole potentially, but those are rarer. Jake is like generally safe.
I hear a lot of arguments with like Jake and Adder are usually the 2 tier 4 COs that people pick a lot.
That's true in standard. In fog, it would be Jake and Jess. Adder is much weaker in fog.
Okay.
Like potentially like maybe not bottom of the tier, but like middling, right? Like Grim can take Adder on.
Alright, so Kantbei has decided to go for Sami. Sami's passive is that her foot soldiers have a plus 30% attack boost, as well as a 50% capture bonus. So you will need to knock down Sami's infantry to 3. I believe it's 3 if she's done a full capture. Bring her down to 3, you can interrupt the cap. But if you drop her down to like 9 HP, she can still capture it, unlike almost every other CO in the game. Her 2 powers are double time, which, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's like a plus 50% attack boost for mechs and infantry.
Yeah, something like that. And it's like plus 1 move.
And plus 1 move. Victory March, I believe is plus 70% for those units. Plus 2 movements, and is able to instantly capture properties no matter what the HP is. So why did you pick Sami for this map? Without giving away the spoiler.
Sami has like pretty interesting ideas here. The 2 comm towers really help Sami because like usually Sami's problem in tank fights is her tanks suck, right? Because like of the minus 10% attack. Which means like there are certain kill thresholds she never gets with 1 tower that other COs do. So with 2 towers, like that's mitigated, and like Sami can like play a decent tank game. Like it won't be as good like Jake's, right? But her tanks aren't terrible day to day, right? As long as like they get first hit, they should still be fine.
Oh yeah, I almost forgot to mention that. Minus 10% attack for all of her direct units, but her indirect units are untouched, surprisingly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're usually going to see foot soldiers and usually artillery from Sami players, maybe some tanks.
Yeah. The other thing is like, you know, if you're gonna think about how do you close out this game, right? If eventually like I win the center, like my game plan would be, okay, let's capture your HQ, right? The hard part about this map is like it's actually really easy to defend your HQ if like you're persistent. Like you can just artillery lock it, rocket lock it, hide completely like in the forest city chain, really close to your base, and it's hard to engage into.
Yep.
Sami is the only CEO that this won't work against because she will just keep sacking to get SEOP and then she'll victory march into your HQ and win, right? Like as long as she can point indirects at your HQ, you've lost the game if you can't break her army.
And in relevance to this map, her black belts also have +1 movement, unlike mine.
Yeah.
Alright, so without further ado, are you ready?
Yep.
Alright, I'll just click normally until you feel like there's something you'd like to add. So obviously, very simple infantry movements going for the neutral base. I don't have a free infantry, so what I opted to do was that I have my top infantry obviously go for this city and then like goes into a nice little chain, while this base down here doesn't have anything to capture right away, so it's best if they go make a beeline for the base.
Yeah, that's completely correct, and this is what I would do in your position. So very good, like being able to spot that.
I guess off to a good start for me. Alright, and I believe I have this infantry just like stick around here because it's actually a 3 capture chain, although I will have to end up being on the backside of the port. How do you feel about 1 infantry taking this city, then back to this port?
I think it's inefficient.
Do tell.
Yeah, so usually like if you just like keep building infantry from this base, you'll often find like, okay, the next infantry probably is going to get loaded to the black boat to rush like the corner. The 3 city corner that's contested because like the recon timings don't stop that, right? So you can get like 1 or 2 of those cities usually. Another infantry will go for the airport, and then like the 3rd infantry, once it moves forward, it will be like about the time like this infantry finishes the capture, and then it will go for like the city that chains immediately, right? That new infantry, as it walks up, it can actually capture the port a turn faster than if you just wait for like 1 infantry to like do it. So like if there's another infantry that can get it, like that's just plus 1k funding. So why would you not do that essentially?
Yeah, I guess maybe if you just want to like ensure that you're maybe getting like the contested properties in the middle here, but yeah, that's understandable. You are missing out some income if you leave 1 infantry to go for entire capture chain, as most of them walk by. See, send your black boat down. And I guess I do the same thing, but unfortunately for me, you're already a space ahead, but I don't know. I don't think that really matters a whole lot because there's a lot of shoals where you could drop off your infantry the next turn. Same goes for me.
Yeah. Well, I think the +1 move actually doesn't matter all that much. I don't think I can actually get there a turn faster or anything.
Yeah, it just looks like you can move faster.
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't drop it off. Oh yeah, that's right. Because
yeah,
1, 2.
This was potentially a mistake. Like I could have dropped it off and like gotten like another infantry faster, but usually like I like parking my infantry on the mountain for vision. Although now that I think about it, there's probably no point because recon timings don't matter anyway, and like you arrive at the same turn, so
yeah.
it actually matter if you drop it off at the mountain or not. Like it's probably the same, so it's more efficient to actually drop off here.
Okay. Yeah, I think next turn I just like drop it off in this middle here, and putting it here means that in 2 turns it can go for either of these cities.
Yeah. So yeah, this is actually like more correct in my opinion than what I did.
Okay. I have a tank.
I will note,
Yes.
like, you can play out my turn, right?
Okay.
But I think usually like the airport capture is taken by the center base for me, and then I send like an infantry up top immediately to like capture the port.
Okay.
So yeah, like I do it this turn, right? So like that extra infantry will get to the port like I think 2 turns faster maybe.
All right. Yeah. Usually with this middle base, I feel like it's better to like just like push it forward, and whatever's back here, just keep it back there, and eventually this infantry is just gonna walk through all these mountains and probably get that corner con tower.
Yeah, that's correct. That's also what I would do on this map. I don't think com tower. I don't think like T-copter to like get a com tower is really good. I think like it doesn't justify itself, right? Even as Sami. I do like later get a T-copter, I believe, but it's not for the com tower.
Yeah. So when I was playing this game, I kind of thought, okay, I'm gonna make this my strong side. I know I'm gonna have trouble trying to get like one of these, but I was hoping to get maybe at least 2 from like maybe this bottom corner, and then at least 1 from this top corner, because part of me kind of felt like you were maybe going to do the same thing I did and have your strong side up on the northern side rather than the west side towards the south.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think like you can really make that assumption because again, like this map, there's no clear strong side, weak side, so like your opponent can go for like either way. So like you just have to be prepared to fight them if they do show up.
Okay.
And like yeah, usually like if we open on opposite corners, like what you're suggesting, then what this becomes is it becomes like a damage race where the person you're trying to like get my cities before I get your cities. So, like you have a temporary income advantage and you have tempo, right?
Okay.
But if we end up like opening both towards the same side, then it becomes like infantry versus infantry fights in one corner, and then maybe like someone throws a recon because they're desperate, or because they're fighting Sami, right?
Yes.
And then like on the strong side, like we either stare each other down or someone finds a tactic to win the game.
Yep. So I did take a lot of time to like consider if I should have gone for this one or go for this one, because I was a bit afraid that you would probably have like something coming up here, getting vision and interrupting this capture. It's day 7. Would you have been able to possibly like get a recon over here and like see these cities and interrupt it? I was like doing move planners a lot, and I'm like, what if you just immediately went straight for income and then built a recon, tried to rush it here? But a part of me was like, you know what? I'll just risk it and just try to go for this one here.
Yeah, I think like even day 3 recon doesn't really stop this. Like this is you will for sure get one city. Maybe you don't get both if they open day 3 recon, but that's the only build that stops getting both. And honestly, like the only way to stop it, I think, is like a day 2 recon or like a bunch of base, like a bunch of city skips where you rush infantry to the front and get in time. But all of those are immediately losing anyway, so like I wouldn't worry about them.
Yeah, inefficient.
Like yeah, like if my opponent like tries to interrupt me there, then I'm pretty happy because I know like they fucked up their opening.
Yeah, it's a very inefficient opening to try to get that. Personally, me, I would panic. Oh, and there's that transport copter you spoke of. Let's see how you use it. Yeah, just had no other infantry here, so I guess I had that capture chain. I think it's because I moved most of my infantry like towards the center rather than up here to assist in the captures.
Yeah.
So I thought I was going to be able to like sit on this city and like just try to prevent you from getting it, and plus I would also have vision, but I didn't think at this point you'd have like an infantry all the way down here, so this kind of spooked me just a little bit.
Yeah, like if I had a tank, you might be in trouble, right? But yeah,
Yeah,
I don't have a tank.
I should be in trouble.
But yeah, like a good way for you to be able to tell, right, is like if you were able to get an infantry to that city on time, right, then that means I can also do that, right? So on this map, like this opening is like all like relatively well-known theory by now. But if you're not aware, like a good way to like tell is where opponent might be is just look at where your stuff are.
Yeah. I thought it'd be a little different because of the free infantry that player 2 is given. Alright.
And we begin the mech spam.
the mech spam. Oh man. I think this is the first time I think this is the first time I've been hit with a mech spam, honestly.
So the other viewers might remember like when we played that 2 versus Go 7.
Oh my god, that was
Go 7 was the mech spam and he had like 30 mechs or something like that.
Yeah.
In this particular map, mech spam is actually like fairly solid. It's not like completely losing as long as like you know how to use mechs correct. So we can go a bit into like the theory of like when are mechs good, right? Yeah. Mechs and artillery, because like they follow the same principles, are good when you can force the enemy to fight somewhere, or when the enemy is forced to fight somewhere, because like if you don't fight there you lose, right? So like one way that you can force a fight is, if you don't fight for your HQ you lose, you get capped, right? So like in that kind of place, like if you know you can force the issue in a fight somewhere, mech artillery is like a really strong composition, right? Because like they have to fight into you, they can't go somewhere else and kill your stuff, right? Because that's like the main counter to mechs early on. The counter to mechs like later on is like you get enough vehicles, and like vehicles are better than mechs eventually in big fights because of like movement. But in the early game that's not the case, right? So like mechs can be super efficient early game. So in this case, like if the HQs aren't super vulnerable right away because of the black bolt, but I know that if you take the center 2 mountains here and you park artilleries and mechs there, it's really hard to dislodge, and also like you prevent your opponent from moving around, which makes you control the map very well, which you want as Sami.
Speaking of the mountains here, but with vision, so first off I did build this artillery like in hopes of like protecting at least this city or like the area around it, and then I remember you had a lot to say about this little guy here.
The recon?
Yeah. With like very little roads and mostly plains.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember this one. Yeah, I don't like the recon so much. I feel like it's too slow on that side of the map. And anyway, like it's not as if you're starved for vision on this map, right? Like there are a lot of mountains you can park infantry on, which is like that's also like another thing that makes mechs better, by the way. Or like T-copters better, because if there are lots of mountains, that means like you have 3 1K recons now. It's called an infantry in a T-copter landing on a mountain, right? So because it's the same vision. So that's when like transport plays become much stronger, and like mechs also become stronger on mountains, obviously. So yeah, like on this map, I would rely on like infantry on mountains to get vision rather than recons, especially like on your plain side rather than the road side.
And here we see here, but Kantbei has a tank. Just because they're weaker doesn't mean that you shouldn't build them, obviously.
Yeah, because I feel like you can't really like answer recons very well, like super mobile compositions without some tanks.
Oh yeah.
Also, like there's an idea with tanks with like the mech arty style, you still get some tanks, right? Like the idea, one of the common ideas is your tank takes a first hit against their tank, and then like you park an artillery behind it so that they can counter hit without getting hit by an artillery. So it forces them into a situation where they have to all in on your army and hope they can wall break and get your artillery, or they have to back off completely and the hit was true, right? So this is like a kind of like a higher level tactical strategy, but it's really common like high level fog fights for this kind of style to happen. This recon hit by me actually was like I think a mistake. It should just be in front of the artillery. From a principled standpoint, right? Like I want to make sure like there's always something in front of my artillery so it doesn't get hit. But also like this recon is just not covered by anything. So like you should have tanks. Like I know you have tanks here. So this is actually just like a dead recon.
I was considering asking if you would maybe have the artillery over here, but I have a comm tower. I am Jake. Possibly I could attack this recon from the bottom and right side and maybe hit the artillery next turn if you had it here.
Yeah, but yeah, I feel like that's too risky, right? Like the recon will die to like. I think like if you got for like went for a fast con tower, which I don't know at this point, but it's reasonable to assume you did. But even with like 120 attack, which is what Jake has on things day to day with the one com tower, there's like a chance you can kill the recon, right? Or like tank plus infantry can kill it for sure, right? So like if you have 2 tanks, you can potentially like hit my artillery, right? Which would be disastrous.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it's just like a very high risk play. I think it didn't pan out for me.
Okay. Yeah, here I see that your recon's not covered, so of course I took liberties into that. I can't remember if I go for that interrupt or not. And like, I guess in some normal games I would like go ahead and like shoot at a capturing infantry to like completely stop it, but in this case you're Sami. It's going to be very. Oh, I do go.
You need to commit two units to go for it.
Okay. Yeah. How do you feel about that though? Because now I got like 2 infantry in artillery range.
I think it's reasonable, right? So like the thing is, if you're gonna commit half against artillery, you might as well commit 2 units instead of 1, because like 1 is gonna get hit anyway. So it doesn't really like the artillery is not gonna hit twice, right? It already gets damaged by hitting once. So like if you move into artillery range, the other counter to artillery, right, is number 1, you don't give it any targets, meaning you don't move into its range. Number 2, you give it 200 targets, right? Like you just put everything in range, so it can only hit one thing and then it dies.
Oh yeah.
Right. So like like the common adage, like I always tell people, is like give them no targets or give them 20.
Have your mech on a mountain. Usually I see mechs as like glass cannons. I usually don't want them exposed to any infantry because you immediately lose value. But I see that you have like, you have these infantry that can attack my infantry. You also have the artillery that's right behind it. So this quote-unquote frontline mech is obviously very scary. Especially since you're
the other
Sami.
thing is like, it's a mech with a firepower boost, right? So like Lash and Sami on their mech mountains are really, really strong and very hard to dislodge. Because like an infantry attacking a mech on a mountain, I think it takes like 3 HP, then it deals like 5 HP or 6 HP back, right? Like it's super inefficient infantry-wise or like unit count-wise to try to dislodge the mech. It's almost not worth it because like you're going down infantry count for it. And like vehicles, like obviously it's just bad.
Yep. My thing decided to update in the middle of the game. I'm not restarting this. We're good now.
All right.
It just decided to update in the middle. But that was something I was expecting. Now you got an infantry like parked on a city. It's not capturing, but it's definitely like the best terrain type in the metal, other than the mountains. So nothing too special happening. Just moving the units forward.
I'm just deathballing now.
Chain, getting the mechs ready. A second transport copter. You know there are more mechs coming if you've got Sami with 2 transport copters. We've seen it in the Go 7 game.
Yeah, so like usually if you want to like chain mechs, right, from like a single base, you need 2 transports so that you can build a mech every turn and bring it to the front.
I'm not getting this, am I? Yeah, I'm not getting this.
Yeah, if you wanted that city, you needed to block for it with like a tank or something, which is like potentially worth it. But like your opponent will usually like try to interrupt with infantry, and like since my main army is nearby, right? Like from everything you've seen so far, like you can reasonably infer I have units in range somehow.
Probably. Kind of forgot how I follow up with it. I do want to ask you. So you're starting to build up a death ball. What are the downsides to a death ball?
So death balls are not very mobile as a composition, right? Because like there's so many units, and especially like there are slow units there. then like obviously like the ball only moves as fast as the slowest unit or your break up ball, right?
Yeah.
So like even if you like go all tanks, right? Like the slowest unit will still be infantry, right? So I'm limited by that. So potentially like you know, you can outmaneuver the death ball, right? But in terms of like taking fights, you can never fight into a death ball if you don't have your own. It's just impossible because if they have 5 tanks and you have 2 in the opening, because like your 3 tanks are on the other side of the map, you will never win that fight. You can take every first hit, you can be one bolt into like Jess, and you will still lose.
Yep. Yeah, I've heard some people say that the death ball isn't like the most viable or the best way to always play, but I guess for your CO pick, I guess it's obviously very viable here.
I actually like heavily disagree with those people who say like death ball isn't the correct way to play every game. Like I think it is the correct way to like in higher levels, right? Like people understand death balls exist, so they will be trying to like do either like a death ball stare off, which is somewhat similar to what we're doing right now. Obviously mine is like more compact, but a lot of our vehicles are staring each other down and we can't really fight into each other. And there's a lot of fighting happening on the flanks where most of the vehicles aren't, right?
Yeah.
So in this kind of situation, it's not as if death ball is bad, right? It's just that you have to realize like if they also go death ball, which is the optimal way to play, then there's a lot more room for playing where the death balls aren't, right? Because like if the death balls can't fight, you have to find advantage somewhere else, and usually this is where like the side fights become important. But if you don't death ball, right, then these side fights don't matter entirely. I will just kill everything with my death ball where your stuff are, because you've committed stuff, and you can't do anything about it, right? Like even if I go down income, like I will be up in material, right, and I will use that to equalize or get more income in the mid game.
I've tried to go for what I've heard some people call like a rubber band strategy, where I like try to have my units spread out as far as I can, so to try to cover most of the area, so long as they like still cover each other. Like I have, hopefully this tank covers this tank. They only cover each other, right? Though Battlecopter covers this tank, and which is also covered by this tank, which can go out to here. So I was trying to go for that rubber band strategy rather than the death ball, but here you're now telling me that, you know, the death ball isn't as bad as what some people might say about it.
Yeah, like death ball is like perfectly viable, and it's not as if like rubber band hard counters death ball. So here we get into like more advanced concepts. Like you have to have good vision game, you have to be aware of like how their army is moving. So like a rubber band can beat a death ball if the rubber band is positioned correctly. But the problem with the rubber band is like if you don't position correctly, what can happen is like the death ball, well in this case it's not as big a threat because I don't have like a mobile composition, but if I had all tanks here, what can happen is like I attack like one corner of your rubber band, right, like the farthest corner, and you will have units that can cover it, right? So then temporarily I will be fighting you 5 tanks to 2 tanks and you still lose, right? And then once you lose those 2 tanks, it will like start spiraling, right? Like you can't even like your tanks being a turn late it doesn't matter if it's 1 turn late or 10 turns late, right? They're still late. They're still not in the fight when they matter, right? So because of it's a late by 1 turn or 10 turn is the same thing in the fight, right? And this is like where the weakness of the rubber band is because if they can find the corner of your rubber band and you don't protect it properly, because like there's some mispositioning, you can easily lose it. Death ball is less susceptible to this thing, right? So like as a beginner strategy, it's much better to use death ball. Like this rubber band thing, I wouldn't recommend it to you until I don't know 1100 or something, or like 1200 in fog, right? Because like before then you don't have you simply don't have like the vision management game and like the map knowledge and all of this, like knowing how to take tactical fights. You don't have that all those prerequisites to like make this possible, right? And like death ball will just run you over.
Okay. And here, I just want to say, yeah, I completely lost this tank here. You went in with a battlecopter, and something that I usually see a lot of high level players do, they have the battlecopter come and attack. I have the anti-air right here, but you have fantastic protection for your battlecopter.
Yeah, and this is like one advantage of the death ball, right? Is because like there's no such thing as overextending with it because all your units are so clumped together, like they can move as one and the wall stop out. Whereas here, like because like your wall is not as solid because like you're going for a rubber. If I can find like a wall break, which is pretty easy, then I can just like cut off parts of your army, right? And like you can't re-engage because like you're just hitting infantry, and that feels super bad.
Alright, so I'm hoping to get this city, which is why I got the join cap here. And
Yeah, that's very reasonable. I think like you playing here in the top part is correct. Once you've realized like my composition, which you should have by now, like by what you've seen.
I think once I like got vision in the middle, I pretty much basically knew what your composition was.
Yeah, so like because like you've seen this, and also because like, you have in bottom and like you can't really fight, like it's reasonable for you to like now try find counterplay somewhere else on the map where you know I don't have enough things. Like that's just how the game works, right? So you trying to make this play for the top is correct, and I think this was like one of the few times in the game I was like a little worried for my position. And so like this is how you break a death ball, right? Like you make the player panic, and you make them play non-principled advance wars. And if they do that, then obviously like if they break their death ball up, like the death ball suddenly collapse. Like especially this composition is super susceptible, right? Like mechs and RTs that don't support each other just die.
Yeah.
So like I have to like not panic and play a very principled game even if I'm down income. That's the only way I can win.
So yeah, basically because you're like kind of have like your death ball in like middle and bottom. Since I'm like advancing up here, your death ball composition is just gonna have to try to move up and waste some turns to try to stop all this. Which is
exactly
like some downsides of a death ball, but it's how you play against it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. Like if you can't fight into the death ball, just don't fight at all, right? Like just move elsewhere, right? And like try to find counterplay somewhere else. In an ideal world, right? Like you try to find counterplay with the least resources committed possible. So like you have the most units possible staring down the death ball, so it can't just roll you over. So like then we get into like higher level games and like theory about like how do you get tempo, how do you preserve tempo with minimal investment, stuff like that. And this is where like death ball meta suddenly becomes a lot more complex. But yeah, I hope like that makes sense, because like some of these concepts are like very, very obscure almost.
No, I understand. Medium tank out before mine, admittedly. I will say, I was tempted to use beatdown solely because of this, but I knew you had an infantry here, and for me to break through it, I would have to reveal it. But because I revealed it, that's one less angle that I can attack that infantry from. So I knew you were a good player, and I knew that you would have like something to protect these two. But assuming that there wasn't, I would have been very, very tempted to use beatdown against these two vehicles.
I don't think that would be worth it. So as Jake, generally speaking, you never want to use beatdown, because like the point is not like the +1 artillery range. The point is the +2 move and the the
40%.
Huge firepower bonus. Yeah. So interesting thing about Jake that many people forget, his COP does not give any plus movement. You still have 6 move on tanks.
Yeah.
Only the SCOP gives +2 move, which is why like the COP no one uses, and like everyone uses the SCOP at high level. And also like against Sami specifically, like you want to get your SCOP as fast as possible, because that's the only time you can actually fight me, right? Like with this super CO power, you can do a bunch of like wall breaks against me, and that's the only way like you break my death ball, like this composition, right? Because like mechs will die to like 1 hit, infantry die to 1 hit against recons. Like obviously like my vehicles you don't care about. If all my infantry die, then like you win the game, right? So you like all this pressure you're feeling right now is because you don't have your superpower, right? If you have your superpower, I can't play like this. I have to be way more safe.
Okay. So not exactly a death ball, but just getting a little bit of coverage here. tank to try to interrupt your cap, and if you try to go for anything else, I have the artillery to cover it up. But I think that also go ahead.
This is a decent engagement for you, I think. Like, this is a pretty good fight, all things considered.
Yeah, stops your capture on my property. And as of now, I do have the lead because I have all 3 of yours. You haven't gotten this one here, and you do have this one. A part of me for some reason, always knew that I was going to struggle in the middle a little bit. So I was hoping I would be able to punish you if you tried to interrupt this specific capture. And currently, I think I have like 5 battlecopters here. You mentioned to me in DMs about battlecopter spam against Sami.
Yeah, I think battlecopter spam is fairly okay against Sami because like mechs don't shoot up well, artillery don't shoot up well, so like Sami has to get AA and copter against it. The thing is, like, it can be double-edged depending on like what composition Sami has, and also like battlecopters don't wall very well because like they die instantly to AA.
Glass cannons.
Yeah. So like you do have to like play safely with them, but there are like a lot of interesting tactics you can do within the battlecopters.
Let's also not forget to mention, this is just for me, day 14, only 1 anti-air still. What I was what I was hoping to achieve was battlecopter on battlecopter. I thought that would be okay to compensate for 1 anti-air, but as most players should know, that a battlecopter does not kill a battlecopter in 1 hit. An anti-air does kill a battlecopter in 1 hit in most scenarios. So it's like kind of like less cost efficient if you're going battlecopter on battlecopter.
Yeah. Oh, also the other thing is like usually your battlecopter, other battlecopters, it wants to hit it wants to remove other threats on the board, right?
Yeah.
Like if they can, right? This one is kind of tough because like honestly on 2 towers you're really close to the threshold you need, right? So like the threshold you need is 140 attack, I believe.
Okay.
No, 150 attack.
Alright.
Yeah, 150 attack is a clean kill, 140 is like a luck roll. This is why Grim on 1 tower can like one-shot copter sometimes with the copter, which is like really funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you have like 130 attack right now. Like reasonable assumption you can hit from like planes, right?
Yep.
130 attack is not bad, but it's probably like not enough. It leaves it at like 1 HP, which you don't want. So like you still need some AA. The thing is also like AA are like really good against Sami, because like Sami will also get copters, right? Like she wants unit count. Also like, you know, AA one-shot mechs, one-shot infantry, regardless of what terrain they are. If you have movement boost power like Jake does, so you know, AA are not useless even if I don't have copters, right? You should never be worried about that. Like, they give you so many wall break ideas, especially on your power turn, that makes it hard for me to position aggressively against you, which in turn buys you more time to get more vehicles, which is what you want, right? Like, that's how you win this game. You stall me out, you get enough vehicles to like kill a huge chunk of my army on your power turn, and that's how you close out the game against me.
Okay. Yeah, one thing that was racing through my mind as we were playing was your artillery just begin to shoot down my black boat. That was I think it just kind of like maybe desperate for vision. Like, sadly I'm blind here. Oh, that killed. I'm honestly a bit surprised that myself that killed.
You have 130 attack artillery, and artillery have like crazy damage values. I'm not too surprised that it killed. I think it might have been a luck roll, but like I think you get good odds.
Okay, yeah, got a little bit of a wall break idea as you mentioned. Anti-air followed up with your 93 battlecopter. Just bring it down to 1. Doesn't kill it, but
yeah, like it makes the copter like quite weak, right? But there's still things where like, you know, it can wall properly. I guess like in this map, the 2 towers, it can't be walled. I can always like join the copter into it to like get 900 funds back. And like it can be annoying as a unit blocker sometimes. There are some tactics with it. So this is actually the thing, right? Like a 4 HP copter is like the most dangerous copter in the board. Because 4 HP, You still need to commit a copter or an AA to kill it. Like I don't think anything really kills it, which makes it like incredible for walling. Because I don't know how many games I've played where I have like a 3 or 4 HP copter just hanging around, and then I just block in medium tanks and medium tanks, and like they can't do shit, right? Like that's how I kill bases on some games. It's just I have a bunch of 3-4 HP copters that wall off the medium tank, and then can't do anything while I park artillery behind it.
Okay, so I do want to talk about this in particular. I thought damaging your mechs would actually be very cost effective.
Yeah, so the problem with this one is like there are mechs backing it up. Also, like my artillery makes sure so like eventually I will have a mech or an infantry hitting from a mountain, which is like 140 defense and like 150 attack with the 2 towers, right? Which means like it's really hard for you to take this fight, right? Like the only way to really dislodge mech from a mountain is just point an artillery at it, and just that's how you deny me that space.
I think I also went for this kill rather than the capture because I felt like I was gonna not get this city anyways. Just try to hold what I can, like enjoy my slight income lead as of now.
Yeah, that's pretty much correct, right? Like you know I have so many units up top, like there's really just no way you're gonna get it. I'll just keep stacking infantry to interrupt, and that's fine with me. So like you might as well just reduce my unit count. So the key against Sami is like you want to keep her infantry count low. Any chance you can get to like kill an infantry, you should probably take.
Okay.
As long as like you don't lose so much more stuff, right?
Alright, so double time here. Yeah. You don't see a whole lot of double times. Like usually a lot of Sami players like to keep their victory march and then just try to go for an HQ cap or an income swing. But I don't think that means that you should underestimate double time. I do believe double time is a good power. It's just that I personally haven't found out when would be a good time to use double time.
So usually a good time is like when they park a lot of their vehicles like just out of range of your mechs, or like they have a lot of infantry just out of range of your infantry, and like the +1 move actually like lets you get these kills, right? Because like conversely, right, like Sami, you want to keep Sami's infantry low. Conversely, Sami wants to keep your infantry low, because if Sami can make, you can't stop her anymore.
I'm
right?
sorry, you cut off. If Sami can make what?
If Sami can make it so you don't have that much infantry left on the board, you don't have units to wall, right? So then how do you fight into her, right? Like with no infantry, how do you clear away her infantry so you can hit her artillery, hit her mechs, hit her tanks, right? And then you can't wall. You don't have cheap units that can interrupt captures anymore. So like you have to commit vehicles, and then you're suddenly like down 7k every turn from those kinds of plays, right? So like without infantry, you lose the game. Against Sami specifically, it's almost impossible for you to win if you lose too much infantry against her, and she has enough infantry.
So when would you use double time, and when would you save it for victory march?
So generally, like if you're gonna use double time, you have to justify it to yourself, right? Like you have to look at how many attacks you're getting with double time, and consider if that is worth delaying your victory march for it. If the answer is yes, then obviously you can use it. But if you feel like it doesn't really get you enough value, then you just hold for victory march, right? So it's kind of like situational. Like you will just have to like play Sami more and like kind of get a feel for like what you think is cost effective or not. Because like these things are always like game state dependent. In this particular case, like I think I saw like, oh, I can hit your tank, I can hit your recon, maybe I can kill a bunch of your infantry because like you parked so much stuff right in range of my stuff. So I was like, okay, let's go. It's go time.
I was honestly a bit surprised that you did pop the double time, just a little bit.
So like if people aren't careful against you, right? Like this is something you can do as Sami, which is why like double time is actually like a really good power. I think it's like one of the stronger powers in the game.
I did mention to you earlier, I have lost to a Sami on this map before, and literally the exact same thing happened. They used double time, and they began capturing multiple, well, they captured a lot more in my other game, but they began capturing multiple properties, and because they're Sami, 1 HP isn't going to delay them from capturing, so That's one way that I've seen like a Master Kantbei, since we've talked to each other because of Master Kantbei. That's one way I see Master Kantbei use it. He uses double time, and he threatens a lot of properties. So it's kind of like a half victory march where you're just capturing multiple properties, but instead you still have to wait the next turn. But because there's so much and the capture is so strong, players tend to use up more units than usual to try to like outright kill or actually interrupt the Sami capture.
Yeah, so that's a very good point. And the other thing to note, it's usually really good to start captures when you start taking a fight. That's somewhat advantageous to you, because then like they are put in a really hard spot. They either have to like fight your vehicles and win the fight, or they have to delay your captures but then lose the fight, right? So like, unless they have like a huge vehicle advantage, which they shouldn't have, or you've already lost, it can be it's like a lose-lose situation for them, right? Like, do they go down on income and like hopefully try to win the fight, or do they like try to like delay your captures, which is really hard to begin with, and then they lose a bunch of vehicles for it, right? Like, there's no easy option usually.
Yeah, you don't want.
Like, then that makes double time really strong in those scenarios, which is somewhat what happens here, right? Like, I just kill a bunch of your vehicles because I know like you're gonna get superpower soon. Like, that's gonna be the hardest part for me to survive. So I want to force you to use it at a suboptimal time, which is about now, right? Like, if you use superpower now, I feel really strong. Because like you don't have that many vehicles, so you're not gonna kill my whole army, and then we can like reset the game's tempo.
Okay. So I do go for the super. As you said, you probably.
Which is correct.
Oh, okay. But you said
Which is correct, right?
But you said you felt very comfortable at the same time.
I mean, yeah. So like this is what I'm talking about, right? Like when I say play in a way so that whatever your opponent does, you're still winning. So this is kind of like the same idea as that, right? Like, if you don't use your super, you lose the fight already, because like I've gotten so much value from mine.
Oh, yeah.
But if you do use the super, then I'm okay, because like you don't use it at a later time where it's potentially way more dangerous, and I can just reset the tempo of the game, and I'll be in an okay position to play it.
So it's not necessarily bad that I use my super. It's just that
yeah, it's still like you can still like make the objectively correct play for you, right? And your opponent can still be happy that you made that play, because like they put themselves in a position where no matter what you do, every play is okay for them, right? And like that's what makes an attack good, or that's what makes like a certain move good in Advance Wars.
I still have a single anti-air this entire game. I'm gonna be honest. I usually don't do this, but I don't know. But copter spam just felt right. I guess I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah, copter spam can be very strong. So, and again, like you're seeing a lot of mechs, you're seeing a lot of like copters, you're seeing a lot of infantry. So like copter spam is like not the craziest thing, right? It's just I feel like you needed some AA to supplement it, and then your army's decent. Copters alone are just kind of like too weak, and then of course like you obviously have a few tanks to anti-air down.
You just deleted your black belt.
Oh yeah, because I want to park my artillery there. That way I can like block the 2 forward cities from like a really high terrain. And like it's not trivial for you to like attack the headquarter artillery, right? Because like you do so little damage and then you lose the unit. So like how do you cost effectively fight into that, right? Like maybe you can use recon, but recons here are so slow. Like it's okay for me if you're down tempo from like recon play, right? So I don't think I even have to like put a unit in front of the artillery, but I do so anyway. Just it's harder for you.
Yeah.
And then in this position, right, like how do you attack into me with your, whatever unit? Like you can't hit it, right? So like the artillery becomes unremovable, and that gives me a way to like pressure these forward cities long term. Anyway, I'm not worried like you'll cap my HP, right? My full army's here.
Oh, yeah,
like if you can cap my HP, I already lost, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like if I can use that tile to like create further pressure and push you back, then obviously that's good for me. So like deleting like the B-Bolt HQ is a play like you have to watch out for sometimes. There are some games I've lost where, because like I didn't recognize the fact that they can delete the black bolt and attack from that tile, they manage to wall break you and you lose the game. So like it's something like you have to be conscious. Like your opponent can always do that if they want.
Oh yeah.
And you have to watch out for it.
And I probably clicked on the replay too fast because I obviously missed this right here. That a Sami infantry hiding in a forest near properties. Yeah.
But right now it's on a river.
If I caught this, I definitely would send at least 1 or 2 infantry down to stop it. Because yeah, it's Sami we're talking about. Victory March is
scary. Yeah,
absolutely. Oh, he built an APC here.
That was only because like my T-copter was running out of fuel.
Only because your T-copter was running out of fuel. It's also a third It's also a third transport too.
Yeah, well, like it has like some uses. Although like I wouldn't normally get an AT unless like the T-copter was running out of fuel. Okay. That's kind of like a disadvantage of the black boat delete because like with the black boat I can refuel using the black boat, but since I deleted it, like I needed a way to refuel.
Okay. So in my mind, I'm kind of like hoping to set up for some sort of counterplay, like punish you for interrupting my caps. And another thing, I know this is kind of a bad habit. I got my vision after I started capturing the city.
Yeah,
so, yeah, that's a personal bad habit for me. I think this is also the first time I see your medium tank, and right now I have nothing. I've always liked teching up as Sami. So yeah, this is something that I usually do as a Sami player, is that I tech up because a weak Sami medium tank is still stronger than a regular tank from most other COs.
Yeah, this is a common like pattern you'll see with like COs who have like weaker normal tanks like Sturm, Sami, they Sasha, like because Sasha has to fight tier 1, right? Like everyone has better tanks in her. So like in those cases, like you usually like try to get an income advantage. So like all these COs have with right? Sturm has a better cap base. Sasha has a plus 100 income. Sami has like Sami's Sami. So like if she can get an income advantage, the best way to leverage that income for these COs is not get more tanks, which suck, right? But to tech up and force them to tech up, right? So like you're now in a heavy tank race, but because you have more income, it's way harder for them to support this kind of like composition than it is for you, and eventually like you will have more medium tanks than them.
Yeah, and here I am punished for not getting vision before I decided to commit to the capture. And yeah, really starting to see it. Deathball is slow, but like you obviously
it's slow but consistent.
You don't want to attack into it.
Yeah. It's slow but consistent pressure. And like if again like the big weakness of Deathball is like most people are just too impatient, right? Like they'll panic when they see they're losing cities or whatever. But if you can play like a very principled style, I've said this many times before and I stand by it. Deathball alone will get you to high 1100, 1200 fog easily. You'll be top 20, right? Because like there are people in top 20 who don't do this. It's like they don't understand how to play the game.
So if I don't get top 20 this year, then I'm definitely doing something wrong. I'm kidding. I still have a long ways to go. I still have a long ways to go before I get anywhere near wherever you guys are. I think at the time we were playing this, you were top 20 in fog.
I'm still top 20 right now.
Okay.
But I think like when we're playing this, I was like in like top 5.
Oh really? I thought I saw top 20.
Yeah.
Just like specifically in fog, but probably just me. So I think I knew this was there. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I knew that was there, and I think I do try to catch it but fail.
I think like here I would have just put your black boat on the port the moment you see that, so you can deny the port capture.
Yeah, I don't think I have my black boat anywhere here. I have my black boat down here to move my infantry capturing the comm tower up a couple more steps.
I mean, yeah, but like it's not as if I have victory march right away, right? So like you can get there in 2 turns if you move the next turn, right? So
yeah,
you can reasonably get to the port in time.
Yeah, it's still hard to interrupt that cap though, because the other exposed side is like mountains, and unless I have an air unit, it would be really hard to interrupt that capture.
Yeah, so like copter would be like really good, and this is why like copters are pretty good on this map. So like I don't hate like your copter choice, to be clear. It's just like you just needed more AA is the problem.
Oh yeah, definitely. As soon as you mentioned like cost effectiveness with air dominance, yeah, anti-air one-shot battlecopters, while battlecopters do not one-shot battlecopters.
Yeah, so like here I think like you get too impatient, right? Like you start trying to attack into the death ball, but again, like you're just not committing enough. So like you're just gonna end up losing way more as a result. Because like there are a couple of things, right, that make this bad. Number one, you have 3 vehicles in the bottom left. Like you have 2 tanks and an artillery there, plus an artillery that's not able to like help fight into like my death ball. You have your copters in front, which means AA will kill it, right? And like you don't have any infantry walling for it, but that's partly because like you've lost so much infantry throughout the game.
Oh, yeah.
Right? But like for all those reasons, I would never have taken the attack either. The other thing is like you don't want to give me victory much. Right?
Yes,
Like if you do an attack like this, you're giving me victory much.
Yeah.
I would say like potentially like the third thing, right, is like you don't have a recon, or like because like you've lost the center mountains, right? Like now you do need a recon to get vision.
Yeah.
So in order to do an attack, you need vision, because like you don't know if the attack is good or not. Right? If you're defending, you don't need vision. Like you can just sit there and wait for them to die. Like if they misplay, you win. They don't misplay, then you lose. But obviously, like misplaying an attack is much harder, or like misplaying an attack is much more likely than misplaying a defense, I think.
So we're starting to see some of the flaws of my rubber band. I don't have my units close enough to fully commit. In this position, I think this is the start of the turn. Well, should I have just like consolidated to a front and like try to win it, or?
Yeah, so in this position, I would give up the center completely, and then I would play super hard towards the left side and like win those 2 cities in the corner. I would also like send your blue black boat to the port immediately, and like maybe like a recon from like your road base to like then hold down like that city. Like that's the cheapest way you can like hold those 2 cities anyway. And then the rest of your army shifts down towards the left. And like if you can successfully do this, then you're down like 2k, right? Which is fine. And like you just get more vehicles and you play for superpower again. Like it's basically the same dynamic that was happening before you popped your superpower, right? It's the exact same dynamic. It's just like there are more stuff now because the game's gone on for longer. But you're still like trying to like get to that position. You have enough vehicles to break my death ball, and before that you don't want to engage. In the meanwhile, I'm trying to play for advantage. I'm trying to pressure you and force you to attack into me before like you can get like that huge death ball thing up, and before using this window where you don't have your superpower yet in order to like pressure you into like taking bad trades or pan.
Discord, hello. Uh-oh. We have problems? Something about pass or whatever. Are you here?
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay, yeah, you kind of like roboted out, so can you maybe try to recollect what you were trying to say before you cut off?
What was the last thing you heard?
Pass, I think, or a path, PA something. I'm sorry.
So I was saying like you can maybe use a recon roadside, so like that's the top right base.
Yes.
To hold like the city, like park it on the city, and then you park on the port. That's like your cheapest way to like hold down those cities against like an infantry. You shift your entire army bottom left towards like the corner and eat those 2 cities that I have, and then that way you've only lost like 1 city compared to me, which means like you're 2k down, which is still fine. And like the tempo of the game has reset, right back to like its initial state where I had the death wall you can't fight into. You are waiting for your superpower so you can fight into me with like a mass of vehicles. You're trying to get more tanks and like trying to prevent me from like taking your HQ or winning the game, or like getting more income than I can get away with, while preserving as many vehicles as you can, and trying to like get to a high vehicle count game state where your superpower is stronger than me.
And yeah, this is the turn where I begin to feel the downsides of so many battlecopters.
Yeah, because like everything just dies super fast, right? Like,
everything just dies, and I have nothing against it. This is where a second anti-air would have been nice. Day 19, no second anti-air. What was I thinking? I can't answer that, I'm sorry. Man. But obviously, I don't think I gave up at this point. Oh, I think this is the turn where it happens. So I try to see if there's like what's over here, and I just see there's a single infantry. I finally use my block rock. Recon.
Yeah, you just go all in.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you see that, right? Like with block rock, your recon can one-shot infantry. So like you should have like 6 more recons, right? Like,
one-shot
I've
infantry.
played a game before where I think I was like Jess into Sami. I built like 10 recons that game that were all alive at one point, and then it just murdered Sami's entire like front line. So like my tanks and AA can just kill everything in the back line.
Oh, man.
Right? So like recons are good against Sami if you have a movement boost power that lets you one-shot infantry.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So like Max, Jake, Jess, all these heroes are really good.
Yeah, I those are like, I guess I would say my personal favorite powers with when you have
Why did you hit a copter with a medium tank? I guess like
that.
have a bear top. But yeah. So,
I guess I was
so you can see like
you can see I was desperate, I guess.
yeah. But now you can see like, you know, you really wish you had like, you know, a couple more recons in AA right now. This attack might have been like, you know, somewhat solid, right? Like imagine if you didn't lose all those initial vehicles in the suicide attack and then like have a superpower with only like half your army alive, right? Like it's all of those like kind of like small misplays earlier in the game which make it so that you can't win the game, right? So like that's why I say like you have to play very principled.
Yeah, I think I've instilled it in my head very wrong that you should preserve your anti-air only for battlecopters. But I'm slowly getting into the groove of using anti-air to break infantry walls, because that one dead infantry can, you know, cost like half of an army or something like that if you have a good turn.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, still trying to slowly get into that. And here I saved up money because I thought a stealth would get me somewhere.
No, if you're losing stealth is bad. Like stealth is a purely if you're winning play and if you have more income play. Or you have mass damage, right?
I see.
So like with mass damage, their idea is like they get stealth, the turn they show it, they also pop mass damage. All the healing makes it so they can't get a fighter, gives the stealth 1 extra turn, right? But if you're down income or you're losing, stealth doesn't do anything for you, right? It's like if you're down unit count, then infantry will wall the stealth and it'll die from lack of fuel. Stealth doesn't do that much damage, so bomber is immediately better, right? In terms of like wall breaking. Do you know how much damage a stealth does? It's basically a copter. It's a copter that can't be hit back by anything except a fighter. But for like 24,000 plus 5,000 for the APC, although I guess you don't need it here because of the people.
Oh yeah,
but for 24,000 unit, this is like complete garbage. People shouldn't be afraid of stealth. Like stealths have like very limited utility in most games. The only nice thing about it is like it's 5 vision and like you can't hit it. But its damage is complete garbage.
my thought process with stealths have always been force my opponent to splurge 20k into a fighter, and then eventually get their fighter and be comfortable with a stealth flying around. That's usually what I think about when I have a stealth.
I mean, sure, right? But like all that predicates on like, you have enough tanks, AA, copter, and infantry to make the stealth not be a liability. So like if your army is about to die, stealth is a liability. It doesn't like save you, right? Stealth has utility if that stealth has like is just dead.
If that stealth has
this is true for like stealth has utility, right? It has uses when it has army to play around. Like it has infantry, tanks, you know, copters, all these small things, right?
Okay.
But if it doesn't have that, then it doesn't save you. And this is true for like almost all tech up units. Medium tanks, mega tanks, battleships, all of these. The same thing applies, right? Like they all have uses, but they still need an army around them, right? Like they don't save the game if you're already losing. So you should never tech up if you're losing, in my opinion. Like maybe medium tanks occasionally if like you're super down tank count, but you know it just needs stuff to play around with. These lone units don't save you.
So if I didn't feel like the last turn, I was probably in a losing situation. Thing 1 and thing 2 definitely began to set things in motion. Oh man, when I realized that I left an infantry down here to live, I was just so distraught. I'm like, yeah, even the stealth probably won't save me, but let's see how far I can go with this. It's still ridiculous to see mechs move around like so much like that. But it's only once with a super.
Yeah.
But it's still just honestly a bit mind-blowing to see. I'm gonna go ahead and speed this up a bit because yeah, you're getting a lot of kills. I'm already more than 10 units behind.
Yeah, so like as the victory march goes, this actually wasn't like super devastating. Although of course like I got a bunch of kills. I believe like I said the only reason I went for boat coming with like almost no fuel, and I wanted to drown your B-boat for the memes.
Oh
so,
yes.
I took the port with the idea of like you kill my infantry and then I'll build a black boat on it. So like you have to like firebomb them or something.
Yes. Sorry about that, guys and gals. The stream crashed for some reason. It's happened before, but as always, we just continue to do so. So, I lost 2 cities. Lost my port. I lost 2 properties. Lost city, lost a port. Desperate stealth. Desperate stealth here. So yeah, just have like my black boat up here. These are 2 infantry. Yeah, just eventually gonna come in. Kill that 1 infantry and hope I can recapture with that. Oh, why did I put it on the road? Oh, I think it was... No, I'm not trapping for AA with that. Yeah, I have no idea why I kind of put it on the road there. So, yeah, this is where my lack of AA really starts to hurt me. I don't have anything to even hit one of those copters. Cut off again, but I'm pretty sure this is where we left off. I bought a recon, battlecopter, infantry, still no AA for me. Yeah, it's, I think this kind of stems from, I hear about how battlecopters can like really help out with unit count. Like if you're doing, should I buy an anti-air, should I buy a battlecopter? A battlecopter gives you an extra unit. But an anti-air is more effective against a battlecopter than your other battlecopter. So I think that's something that I've been struggling to balance, which is why I have all these copters and no anti-air.
Yeah, you still need anti-air in like a balanced composition, right? Since like anti-air provides so much speed. It's true, like yes, you get more unit count with the copter. But I think against Sami specifically, it's not more infantry, right? Like you don't really want that much infantry. What you want are recons and vehicles, right? So like copter into like triple recon is like an interesting idea when you had like higher income.
It's the funny black boat.
Yeah, so again, like my idea where it was like I'm just gonna drown your boat for the memes.
I was so upset when that happened. I'm like, oh, now I can't even get the property back. And yeah, you're starting to shoot on my black boat. I am panicking. And if I couldn't see an anti-air, I mean an artillery, on the pointing at the black boat, I should at least know that there's an anti-air artillery pointing at my black boat. Why do I keep saying anti-air? Oh yeah, because I don't have any.
Because you really wish you had one right about.
I really did. It's like yeah, it's like I don't normally copter spam, but I was definitely trying something different against a playstyle that I've never gone up against. So thankfully this recon was in range to see that, but it could also see this. I was just like, well, that's rip my black boat. Alright, we're back. So yeah, getting some vision, trying to get a few attacks off on the bottom here, hoping to recapture this, but it's not going to be so easy.
What you could have done potentially is like you park your tank on the forest in front of it, and I think that makes it so I can't stop the capture.
Yeah. And this was once I made this move, I was like, oh man, I messed up. So I know you said stealths are bad, but this was even more bad, because now if I do use the stealth in the future, I will at least realize, okay, before I move it in range, I should probably move my other units first and not leave my units in a position where they can simultaneously attack a unit and reveal the stealth at the same time.
Yeah, so you didn't hide it.
Well, it's still hidden, but I put it diagonally with this medium tank, and you probably will be likely to attack from both angles and reveal my stealth. So yeah, I usually hear move your back units first before you move them up, but I guess for stealth, maybe move them last. Maybe.
Yeah.
Because
well, one thing about stealths, right, is like they do have like really good vision. They have like a recon's vision, right? So like there's some use like moving it first. I wouldn't say it's always wrong, but in this case, like yeah, you probably wanted to keep it hidden.
I was about to ask why you didn't go for this capture, but it's very clear why you didn't go for that capture. It's better to kill that tank.
Yeah, I mean, like I think people focus too much on like trying to capture. Like if you can kill their arm, then that's also like winning, right? So like then it's also like safer as a win, because if you kill their army, that means they can't fight back anymore. So like you can take your time. But if you go for the capture and it fails, like they wall break you, potentially you've won.
So I'm pretty sure at this point it's very safe to say that I already lost. But what was your reaction to this stealth?
Yeah, I wasn't too worried about it. Like I thought like, oh, it's cool. This is stealth. I can get fighter now, right? But I'm not too worried about it.
Oh yeah, at this point, no one should be worried. No one should be worried, but you still build it anyways. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want it to go like uncontested, right? Like eventually obviously. I will want to stop it from getting value, but you know, obviously like it's not gonna save you in this position. So
yeah, why would you? Why would you? You killed both of my black boats. Cut off again. So yeah. I was really upset about this because revealed my stealth and got the fighter one turn sooner. So I try to fight back with beatdown. Do get that nice little artillery range there. Battle counter there. So yeah, right now I'm just killing whatever I have my eyes on. And it's just like recon. Yeah, just insufficient. Get the vision last, whatever, as if I haven't already been doing that. I do just kill other copters, or is that only because I have the attack boost? Try to capture the property on the bottom.
Yeah, so with the COP you have enough fire. There's like those two towers.
Yeah.
To one-shot copters with copters.
Hey, you said I would never buy a missile on this map, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, a recon.
Not sure why I did that.
A recon because I have no vision. Infantry because to avoid base skip. Yeah, just see what's in the forest before I finally resign. Yep. Alright, so I don't know if you know about this feature, but definitely we can have this up here while we break down what the hell just happened.
So actually, like, have a small confession here, viewers.
Oh yeah, the confession.
So, yeah. Sami is actually like I made a mistake when I was setting up the game because like the standard fog tiering.
I set up the game.
Oh, Sami is just T4, but in this map he's like easily tier 3. So you were actually like playing a tier down again, right?
Yes.
Like there are some games where like it doesn't matter, right? And like this is why like I opted for like a very mech heavy playstyle like artillery. Like I didn't just spam tanks, which would be like the easiest way to win, because like I wanted to like make the game more interesting. But yeah, like you're just never supposed to really fight against Sami with a tier 4 CO on this map, precisely because like the mech spam is so strong.
Yeah.
And, like there are so many like places where like the infantry fights can happen, which makes Sami like much better than tier 4. Although obviously, like tier 4 has counterplay. Like Sami is not like Kindle where she just completely stomps on them. Like if you play incorrectly, like Sami can die easily. But like since I'm like a fairly high level player and I know how to play Sami, then it just doesn't feel fair as a result.
I'm trying to remember. Did you tell me when you realized this?
I think it was like around like maybe turn 10. Like I realized this is what happened, and like I told you.
You told me at the end. You said you did all right considering you were a tier down. I said, what do you mean a tier down? And then you're like Sammy's tier
Oh,
three on
right,
this,
right.
and you're like Sammy's tier three on this map,
Yeah.
and I'm like, what the heck? Just what's the point of this game? But I still definitely we still definitely got a lot out of this game.
Yeah, I'm glad. Like,
So
yeah, I think there are like some salient like, tier, even though
yeah.
you're playing a tier down. Like,
Mhm.
you just have to like play a little bit more principled with your rating style. Like,
There
don't
were,
commit like half your army suddenly, right? Like, you have
yeah.
to be very patient.
Yeah,
Um,
there's you were mentioning something to me when we had to pause the recording. Uh, Something about yeah, you said something about like principle or like. Do you remember?
yeah, yeah. So like being very principled with your play. So that can mean a lot of things, but essentially what I'm saying is like if you're gonna play a death ball style, then make sure your units are actually like together, right, and like walling together, because like oftentimes what will happen in games is someone will death ball, for example, and then they win a few fights, they feel cocky, right, and then they just send their vehicles all over the place, like take every first hit possible.
Mm,
And because like they've done that, they've broken their death ball. So
yeah,
suddenly their opponent, if they still have like a fighting chance, they can get back in the game because of that, right? And
yeah.
like that's how you throw away your advantage, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like if you stay principled and just don't do that, you win the game easily. But because you just did that, the game's even again, right? So like you just throw away your advantage.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean by playing very principled. Like there are like certain points in the game where you'll feel very tempted to do certain things, but it's actually unwise because like you either don't have enough information to do that, or it's just bad because like they have enough stuff to punish you.
Okay. All right. So, biggest takeaways from this game that we had.
Make spam good and win
Mix
slow.
spam good. Don't half commit into a death ball.
Yeah,
Yeah.
also that's probably like the more important lesson. I don't want like your viewers to be like start next spamming and blame me when they
Mix.
suddenly like lose 100 elo.
There's a right way. There's a right way to mix spam, and there's a wrong way to mix spam.
It's more like there's a right way to make spam. There are many wrong ways to make spam.
Ah, that's wonderful. But any positive takeaways from my end?
Yeah, I think like you played that opening really solidly. Like you actually like had an opening idea with like the black bolt dropping the infantry that I think is like superior to my opening. Like even at my level, right? Like there's still stuff you can learn from lower level games. I think like you reacted to like my movements fairly well for the most part until like
The
there were
half-ass
like a
turn.
couple of questionable attacks, right? And like a couple of like turns where you got impatient and like threw the game.
Oh
But
yeah.
before that, like I think like you were playing pretty scary, to be honest, because like mixed spam sets like really hard to pull off for that reason. Because like firepower boost COs are scary to face.
Uh,
Um, Maybe like don't throw away as many recons as you did. Like your recon on a superpower turn is like worth like two recons on like a normal turn.
I built
That's one way
five.
to think
I
about it.
built 5 recons.
Yeah, so like if you kept all five alive, right? Like that would have been five infantry, then, or like five mechs.
Hmm.
It's that kind of thing that you have to like think about. Like, is it better to get value now from this unit, or do I wait until my superpower becomes a super recon, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess thank you, Kantbei, for having this game and having this collab with me. It was very insightful. I definitely have learned a lot from having this game with you and having this discussion.
Yeah, happy to help, right? And yeah, I'm glad like you learned something here, even though obviously it was a tier down, so maybe slightly unfair.
Maybe
But I
so.
think like there are always like lessons to learn from these kind of games, and like this one I think is particularly instructive because I think most players don't have that much experience or like have never seen like what a high level Sami mech death ball looks like. Just because like there are so few players who know how to do it, right? Like I'm one of like maybe 20 people in the world who know how to do it in FUG.
Yeah.
Um, so, when you see that, like, how do you respond to it, right? Like, is the answer mech spam too strong? Not really, right? It's just like you just have to be way more patient with your vehicles. and like wait for that opportune moment where you can just do a bunch of like one-hit kills with your superpower turn.
Yeah. As you said, I've had plenty of opportunities to punish it, but I'm only like mid 800s. I don't have that experience or couldn't come up with that answer for that.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, that's fair. All right. Where can people find you, Kantbei? Not that I'm telling them to go seek you out, but if you're active, where are you active?
On Discord, I guess.
Yeah, the Advanced Wars by Web Discord.
Yeah.
Definitely gonna leave a link in the description below. That doesn't mean that you could just straight up just tag him and be like, "Hey, what's up?" Obviously not. I've met Kantbei through Master Kantbei, and yeah, this is how we kind of started having this happen. Because I didn't just go to him, so like, "Hey, have the game with me. Tell me what I did wrong." It was just a matter of someone knowing someone else. But again,
Yeah, I mean, if people want to like play me, like I'm pretty happy to. Like it's just not like finding the right time. And, like
oh yeah,
obviously, like it
definitely.
might not be live, right? Like it'll depend like kind of this thing.
Yeah,
I'm always
it's
happy to like help newer players analyze their games.
yeah. I'm. It's 4 a.m. for me, so that's how we're able to pull
Quite.
this off. All right, guys and gals. Let me just switch off the replay real quickly. All right, guys and gals, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you all learned something as well. May or may not expect more videos like this with potentially other players as well. Wink, wink. Knock on wood. But I'm definitely gonna try to keep up with the uploads on my channel. So if you haven't already, feel free to subscribe. I'm gonna do my best to upload and record every single week. But yeah, I think that's just good enough. Any parting words, Kantbei?
Yeah, and get that window up, guys. Like if you play Principal, like I guarantee you will you will climb in pod.
Definitely. All right, guys and gals, I am Advanced Warrior. You all have our warmest regards. Please take care.